Alright, today we got a stock internal K20 RSX with a turbo kit, and let's take a look at it. It looks like, I guess what you can call like an entry-level turbo kit on it. CX Racing turbo. It's got an actual tile wastegate on it. It's a 38 millimeter with not necessarily the greatest priority to the wastegate, so hopefully we won't have any boost control problems. Using a Honda 4-port boost solenoid. I'm not a big fan of these things on low boost street cars. They're too sensitive. If you want to run 60 pounds of boost, they work pretty good, but not when you want to run 12. So hopefully that won't fight us too much. It does actually look like we have a return style fuel system on here. 4-bar map sensor. Skunk 2 intake manifold, and I'll have to dig back through my messages, but I'm pretty sure these are 1000cc injectors. I don't know what year this car is, but this belt is from that year, I think. And that's basically about it. What's a little bit interesting about this one,
Testing.
that's not
System
gonna work.
ready.
Shut up. Got 265,000 miles on this thing, so who knows, hopefully it'll stay together and not blast the pistons through the hood. I'm not sure how well you can see with the camera. Does that help any? Maybe, maybe not, but it looks like the engine's like crazy tilted, so I have to keep an eye on that. Oh, can't adjust the seat. Feels like something's stopping it. Oh, that's different. I hope that's temporary. Alright, had this up and running for a few minutes, but all of the oil is coming out of the tailpipe, so I pulled back the turbo blanket. And the center section of the turbo is just 90 degrees off. So hopefully I can get in there and clock this thing properly and get it to work a little bit better. The problem is there's probably 4 quarts of oil on the downpipe that's going to just linger and burn off in there forever. So I'm going to try and do that now. Also, the thing idles at like a minimum of 1700 RPM, so it might pressurize the intake manifold and see if we have a leak there, but it's got a Skunk 2 throttle body on it, and those things basically never work right, so it's probably just a result of that, in which case there isn't a whole lot I can do about it. That's the fitting that was on the turbo, and it can't make the bend it needs to make in order to get back on. I'm not sure what I need to do here because it's not in the budget to redo it, but at the same time I can't do anything with this, so let me talk to him, see what he wants to do. Alright, so the existing return line was wedged in between everything and anything. It was just torture to move around. I gotta actually clean my blood off of everything. Came up with a temporary solution for it. It needs to switch over to all AN fittings and not hose clamps. Threw a couple of pieces of metal in the lathe, turned those down, welded a couple things, and now the feed's at the top, the return is at the bottom, so that should get us through the dyno. Now I'm going to pressurize the intake. So there's one issue to take care of. Actually pretty quiet around throttle body, so we'll take care of this, and I'll tweak with the throttle body a little bit and see if we can get the idle to come down. After that, get started again. Arm and hand look like I've just gotten in a fight with a bobcat. So it's only making like 3 or 4 pounds of boost. But wastegate's about to fall off and the gasket's blown out. This breather thing fell off. And it's leaking some oil, so I'm going to investigate that now. So the actual stainless braided hose was leaking like from the line itself. I'm just going to yank that piece of hose out and replace it with something that hopefully will hold up a little bit better. Wastegate gasket just completely blew out, and the wastegate's like basically about to fall off. So I'm going to pull that apart and come up with something on that. And then this breather thing just like fell off, so put that back. And assuming everything works out with that, then we'll probably put it back on the dyno and try one more time. If there's any issues past that point, then I have to throw the towel in. I'm already behind schedule on other stuff. I also noticed that probably part of the high idle issue is the intake manifold's cracked, so that's not helping things. So I'm gonna knock all this stuff out now. You know, the manifold just comes right off on your hands. I'm gonna have to light my hands on fire tonight to clean them off. All right, I got the wastegate taken care of with a metal steel gasket in there now. The actual flange on the manifold doesn't seem very flat, so that might just blow out again. Oil line is taken care of, and the idle has gotten out of control. And then this is one, I actually haven't seen this before. But if you look on there, at the bottom side, there's actually another screw that's about to fall out. So starting it up this time, it was idling at about 3,000 RPM, backing it out, and then pulling it back in, then it was idling at 4,500 RPM. But if you can see, that screw is preventing it from actually closing the throttle all the way. So, and then also fuel pressure was like pretty high, so back that back down a little bit. So basically gonna be starting all over again on the tuning. Riding me like crazy with idle, got the fueling pretty good. It's about 1,100 RPM now, but it won't go any lower, so we're gonna ride with that. All right, all set back up on the dyno. Made a whole bunch of changes to basically everything. Still on the wastegate. Made a couple small runs, so I'm gonna start revving it out. And got my fingers crossed that we got all the I'm gonna die. All the bugs and stuff worked out. It's got some broken wheel studs and just 265,000 miles on it, so the whole car like kind of shakes and whatnot. Probably have to take this one out on the street and kind of touch it up a little bit once we're done here. A little bit weird. I can't help but think it's got a vacuum leak that I can't find or something. Like it'll sit in idle at rock solid air fuel, and then just all of a sudden it'll like change for 10-15 seconds, and then it'll go back to where it was. You can chase it and chase it and chase it, and it doesn't want to go away. So that's not very normal, but it's still manageable. Yeah, cruising air fuel on dyno is just fine. Alright, let's see what it'll do. Like that. All right, let me make some changes here again. Made a whole bunch of like really big swings on the fuel curves in VTEC, and it looks like just globally I needed to add a bunch, so try that now. That's better. Sort of funny, after you just make one run and see where you're at, you can get it so close just on the second run. Well, when everything's working correctly. All right, air fuel's pretty close. Let's see, between 6 and between like 6 and 7,500 RPM. I have a little bit of a rich spot, so I'm gonna pull a little fuel out there. Hopefully get this straight, then we can turn the boost controller on. Bikes and stuff just never end. 292 horsepower at 5 psi. So let's turn the boost controller on now. So a whole lot better than the last time we were on here. Doesn't appear to be oil everywhere either. Keep on rolling. If I don't blow my brains out from these stupid four-wheelers. Alright, I got the boost control set up, boost cut in place. I absolutely despise these 4-port solenoids on street cars. They're just too sensitive. So usually this will require a few runs of hitting boost cut and trying to figure out where it wants to be. But let's try it out. Or let's not try it out. Alright, since the battery's dead and it's 5 o'clock, I'm going to just throw a battery tender on it overnight and try this again tomorrow. But if I can get the boost controller to do what I want it to do, probably just need to make a few more runs and finally get this thing back out on the road. Totally miserable day outside. It's pretty cold. Got the battery charged up and played with the boost controller a little bit to at least get it to the point where it's doing something. Now the tricky part is with these 4-ports, so sometimes you add 1% and the boost goes up 40 pounds, and sometimes they cooperate. So we're gonna play with that a little bit and see if maybe we can flirt with 400 horsepower with 450,000 miles or whatever this thing had. All right, went up a few percent on the boost controller. These pulls are being done in 4th gear. Just starting in 2nd and throwing it in 4th. I don't know. I'm not the clutch in this thing's. Most cars I'll just start in 4th, but the clutch in this thing makes a bunch of noise and stuff, so I don't want to do that. But with these hub dynos, you just basically start in whatever gear you want typically, but just playing it a little extra safe on this one. 10 psi, 374 horsepower. Getting there. So rather than turning the boost up just for the hell of it, I'm going to play with the cam angle a little bit, see if there's a couple horsepower there, but probably another 2-3% on the boost controller should do 400 no problem. But if I can do it with less boost, then that's the route I'm going to go. And again, giving the mileage on this thing, timing super conservative, and air fuel's intentionally pretty fat, so trying to keep it alive as long as we can. Actually picked up about 15 horsepower everywhere in VTEC where I made the changes. For whatever reason, it seems like the rev limiter actually kicked in a little earlier that time than before, so the peak number wasn't much higher, but it might do 400 without even having to touch the boost controller. So I'm going to change that a little bit more, bump the rev limit up just a hair so I don't hit it, hopefully, and we'll try one more. This is no changes between the blue and the red other than just the cam angle, but you can see up here, for whatever reason, the rev limiter kicked in a little earlier than normal. I almost threw up on myself. Yeah, let's see if we can get the rev limiter out. I mean, even if that just carries as it is, it might flirt with 400 at 10 pounds. You didn't hear this from me, but these Chinese knockoff turbos just keep getting better and better, it seems. I can't remember the last time I had one on the dyno that didn't actually work pretty well. So 382, pretty close. So we'll throw a couple pounds on the solenoid, and we'll hit 400 and we'll call it good. Here's the difference between 5 pounds, 10 pounds, a couple RPM, and some cam angle adjustment. Pretty crazy. All right, threw another 3% duty cycle at the solenoid. This one I think should do 400. So we'll throw the camera on the screen and make this run. This is exactly what I refer to when I say I hate these 4-ports. You go up 1 or 2% and the thing wants to skyrocket 6,000% increase in boost. It's annoying. And you can mess with the frequency all you want. I don't care what Honda data tells you. These things just, they're terrible. I despise these things. That'll do it. Quick glance at the log. That's kind of fluctuating a little bit between like 12.8 and 13.2 psi. 280 whatever thousand miles. Some hurdles to jump through to get here, and on like the drivability, cruising around part of it, everything data wise looks okay. The car feels a little, I don't know what you want to say, like not necessarily jerky, but I'm partially convinced it's just in the suspension and the drivetrain. So it's raining right now. I think it's supposed to be dry tomorrow, so I might cruise it around a little bit out on the street tomorrow just to make sure all of that stuff is actually in the drivetrain and not not in the tuning side of it. I do suspect, not suspect, but I'd like to get rid of basically everything here. Intake manifold, let's say this one's got a crack in it over here. He's had problems even when this thing was all motor and he put all this stuff on it. This sensor, the TPS sensor, is definitely flaky, which is probably causing a little bit of some of the inconsistencies I'm seeing. And then these throttle bodies are just terrible. So again, not trying to knock anybody's stuff, just trying to help you guys out. So like I just, that's not the route that I would go with this. And then the other thing is these Honda 4-port boost controllers, solenoids. Again, I was obviously able to make this work, but the range, like operational range on these, is just too broad. Now if you want to run 10-pound wastegate spring and make 55 pounds of boost, then these things work pretty well. even then they can be a little bit touchy. Like if you wanted to knock half a pound of boost out of it to get traction, you don't have that option. You know, the smallest increment that you can change in duty cycle, even adjusting frequency, a lot of times the boost just will move more than that. I would much rather use a 3-port solenoid, or even 2 3-port solenoids. Back in the day, we used to run 2 3-ports off of 1 output, which would do exactly the same thing as the 4-port would. But I like to have control, reasonable control at the lower boost level. So I'll typically run like 2 outputs. So run a traditional 3-port to the top of the gate for, you know, say 10 pounds to 30 pounds or whatever it wants to do. And then once you're getting above 30 pounds, usually you just want to pin everything shut. At that point, you can activate your second output and just open up the solenoid on the side port of the gate. And at that point, the turbo is basically going to make whatever it can make, but doing it that way gives you a whole lot more control. And you don't even necessarily need to pulse it. You know, the Honda stuff doesn't have a whole lot of adjustability in that sense, but you could just use a nitrous output and simply activate it on and off, like say maybe like at the 2-3 gear change or the 3-4 gear change or however your car's set up. Just open up that side port, make as much boost as you can, and make a whole bunch of power. So that's gonna do it for this one, and see you next time.